There was a time when I could tell you the title of every book in the store. I could give you the price. I could tell you the price of the clothing in the store, every piece of clothing, jewelry, every piece of art. Now I have to go to the computer and punch it up and see. My name is Ayele Bennett. I'm manager of the Shrine of the Black Madonna Cultural Center and Bookstore in Detroit, Michigan. The shrine itself has been here for 40 years. Our bookstore and cultural center has been here for 23 years. Back when we started, we had made some connections with our art dealers in Africa. So we had a few pieces of art from sculpture from Africa, and the paintings came from artists within the community. And the jewelry came from artists within the community. The clothing came from, well, we had a clothing factory downstairs in our basement. Most of our clothing came from what we called our clothing factory. Most of our jewelry came from these hands. I made most of the jewelry that we had here. I really don't have the time to devote to it now that I had at the beginning. The shrines of the Black Madonna cultural centers and bookstores are the largest black bookstores in the world. And I say that because we are the only bookstore that you can come to and find such a tremendous selection of books related to the black experience in one place. We don't have a few books on a wall someplace saying African American. When you walk into the store, the total store is African American. Everything about the store, and we are more than just a bookstore. We are a cultural center. Culture is how you dress, how you talk. You know that black people talk a certain way. How you relate to each other. Basically, that's what culture is. People don't always come here just to buy. We've had people that will stop in from work just to be here, to be in the atmosphere, because we strive to maintain like a congenial, friendly, warm atmosphere. And people will just stop, they'll say just to cool out before they go home after they get off from work, because it's so pleasant here to them, and to look at the art and browse through the books. It makes us feel good, and it also makes us feel that we have a tremendous responsibility to maintain and to uphold for our community. We hope that our being here represents to other black people the fact that they can come together and work together to build an institution that will serve the community's needs, that you can build economic-based power within your own community if you come together knowing that working together, hard work, knowing that you can do this and doing it. And we're hoping that, I believe we've had some impact on the community, because we have, at first, remember in 69, 70, the early 70s, there was a proliferation of little black boutiques and bookstores, and they all went out of business. We're the only bookstore and cultural center that stayed, but now they're coming back. Now people are beginning to form them again. And I think they've learned through the years, through looking at us, that it just takes hard work and perseverance, that you just have to stay with it and reinvest within. We do a lot to promote that educational concept of where civilization began by taking displays and to schools, churches, community groups, not only during February, which has been denoted as Black History Month, but throughout the year. We'll take books, clothing, African art displays, and one of the most effective concepts that we use within the school is will take the children from the audience and tell them, at one time you were little princesses. You were a little prince and you were a princess. And this is the way you dressed. And we'll wrap them in the African attire and wrap their heads if it's a little girl, put the kufi on if it's a little boy, and then we'll explain to them. But through the years, when your great-great-great-grandfathers were captured and brought to America as slaves, gradually they lost their concept. And as we're talking, then we are disrobing them. We're taking off the hat and unwinding. Gradually, they lost their concept of their culture and their heritage. And then they're standing there again in their blue jeans and their shirt. And you can see the dawning. They realize just through that simple demonstration. I haven't gotten up a morning yet and said, oh, I gotta go to work. I get up getting ready to come to work because it's the kind of work that I enjoy. If a customer comes in and they're searching, it's the first time in, and they've heard about us, but they don't know about us. And they look at the sculpture, the art that's imported from Africa, and they say, what is this? Because it looks strange. Most of the art from Africa is sculpted abstractly. And you explain to, there's a feeling, they relate to the art because there's emotion, there's an emotion in African art. And you explain to them that this piece of art was sculptured for a particular rite or ceremony, or this piece of art was sculptured just to hang on walls as decor. And gradually they begin to understand that because it's strange, it's not something that's alien to them. It's just something that they hadn't been exposed to before. And they'll stay as long as they feel comfortable to stay. And then we haven't had a customer yet that has not yet returned. And they'll come back again. When you walk into our doors, customers, you can visibly see them relax. Because they know that they'll either find what they're looking for or we'll get it for them if we don't have it here. And they also know that they don't have to buy. They didn't necessarily come in to buy. Then they're not going to feel pressured to buy. Well, at one time, this was a furniture display place, and there up top there's a big sign that says Home of Homes. And for the past 22 years, we've said we're going to change it. And every time we start thinking about changing it, someone from the motherland, a sister or brother from the motherland, will walk in and they'll say, Home of Homes, yes, Home of Homes. Oh, I'm at home. I feel at home. And they say, oh yes, this is Home of Homes. And then we'll say, well, we can't change it now because we've just had someone to connect to it. So it's been up there for the past 23 years and we haven't been able to change it because every time we think about changing it, someone connects to it. We are Black Christian nationalists, and nationalists because we feel that we as a people must come together to build the institutions to serve our needs. And in that, the cultural centers and bookstores grew out of that concept because there was such a dire need for Black people to have a place to come to so that we could experience our heritage and our culture. There was a need for a forum for Black artists to display their talents. There was a need for people for a place for people to come to so they could just see what our art was, so they could make the connection.